But everyone has a different story to tell. Shell, which says it's losing it.
The Tampa market. Starting to rise.
In Northeast Africa, precisely on the Horn of Africa.
But the local funds.
But everyone has a different story to tell. Shell, which says it's losing it.
The Tampa market. Starting to rise.
In Northeast Africa, precisely on the Horn of Africa.
But the local funds.
Bam, bam, bam. Good morning, family. Good morning, family. Once again, welcome by this morning. This is WCC. As usual, I am your host. This is Frank Maubad, the host for the Revolutionary Repatriation Educational Lecture Series. So today's topic is going to be very interesting and it's going to be very deep. So as you come on, I ask you to please share the live. Please subscribe. Please hit the like button as well so they can reach to many as it can. As usual, we want to say thank to all of our contributor, our patron. If you want to contribute to the WCC platform, the link is posted at the beginning, so you can click on that. It will take you to the website and you can be able to send in your contribution, because we have just moved from the old platform to this platform, so it cannot allow you to actually donate to donate on YouTube, because we are still growing this platform. So that is why we have some restriction for sending donation in from YouTube. So you can go to our website, wechargejournalism.org, and then you can donate from there. Or the link is posted at the beginning. You can also get that and send in your donation. So other than that, let's get into it straightly. So today's topic is called Western Guilt Can't Make Change. Western guilt will not make any change in the life of Black people, in the life of African people, and on the African continent, and in any Black nation. And that is why we are here to prove today why Western guilt can make any changes or any significant changes in the life of Black people. Now the question then becomes, do they have guilt? Okay, so that is the question. Do Western people have guilt? Now, if you are to ask me based on my research that I have done, I will tell you, no, they do not have guilt. They do not have any guilt when it comes to Black people, when it comes to African people. They have no guilt. Now, what do I mean by that? Let me just give you a little premise or synopsis of what I mean by they do not have guilt before we can even get into the topic. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Revolutionary Repatriation Educational Lecture Series as part of WCC. I welcome you all this morning to all comrades. I welcome you, Dennis. I welcome you, Miss Life. Thank you for tuning in this morning. Now, they have no guilt. What do I mean by they have no guilt? Okay, this is what we mean when we say Westerners, okay, they have no guilt. Okay, the colonialists, they have no guilt. The imperialists, they have no guilt when it comes to the issue affecting African people, because they caused it. Okay, and up to now, they have no guilt. Now, the reason why they have no guilt is this. Okay? Let's start from America here first, right? Or let's go to Haiti, right? Now, if they have guilt, okay, the way in which they treated African people in the diaspora, in the so-called Western world, the inhumane treatment they give to African people, and when African people rise up in Haiti, right, and they gain their freedom, they gain their independence, what happened? Because they have no guilt, because they have no remorse, okay, because they are not human and they don't have human heart, what did they do? They went against Haiti for Haiti fighting them to gain their own freedom. Up to now, today, Haiti is still suffering, right? Now, that is not a topic, but I'm just giving you an understanding of what we are about to get into today, okay? Up to now, because Haiti fought for independence, they saw that as a problem. They saw that as an issue to their what? Their life, right? They went against Haiti. Up to today, Haiti is still paying the price. Up to today, Haiti have paid over $23 billion to the colonialists, to France, to the enslaver. Okay? If they have guilt, they wouldn't have gone against Haiti in that manner. That up to today, Haiti is still paying. Okay, let's see another thing. If they had guilt, right? If they had guilt, when Martin Luther King and there's so many Africans that was fighting for freedom in this country, right? What happened? Because they do not have guilt, when Martin Luther King realized that his approach to the colonizer, to the enslaver, was wrong, and when he realized to turn back to black doctrine, right, to black agenda, they kill him. You know why they kill him? Because they have no guilt. And up to today, they have no guilt. The reason why they have no guilt is because if they had guilt, everything that Dr. King stood for, okay, ought to have been implemented today, okay? Black history who have been taught in this country, okay? But because they have no guilt, they won't do it. Now, because they have no guilt, they also went ahead and killed, how do you call it, assassinated Malcolm X. Because they have no guilt, they also went ahead, right? They pulled crime against Malcolm Garvey for fighting for freedom, right? To unite African people, right? Because they have no guilt. They didn't want for African people to rise, okay? Now, I want to give you an understanding of what we're about to get into in this current time, 2022, okay? Because they have no guilt, they went as far as on the African continent and they start killing African leaders who wanted to see the greatness of African leaders, of, let's say, of Africa, right? After they enslaved African fought for themselves and they freed themselves. And then they colonized the African continent. The African continent fought again to free the African continent. Systematically, they went directly, indirectly, they assassinated all of those leaders. Okay? And because they have no guilt, they don't even mention those leaders. And because they have no guilt, for each time African come out to follow the doctrine of those leaders, right? And then current African leaders that follow those doctrine, they become an enemies. In the same way, those leaders in the past were enemies to their agenda. Okay, so it is how in this current time, in this current situation, African leaders that follow the same agenda or doctrine of those Africans that they killed before, they become enemy and they come against you, they kill them. Okay, because they have no guilt. If they had guilt, they would have agreed and worked with Gaddafi. But because they have no guilt, they went ahead, they killed Gaddafi. Because they had no guilt, up to today, sanction is still on Zimbabwe, right? If they had guilt, sanction would have been on Zimbabwe today because they said it was Robert Mugabe. It was through Robert Mugabe. It was because of Robert Mugabe policy they put sanction on Zimbabwe. But Robert Mugabe had been dead, long and gone. He's rotting where he is, right? But why sanction is still on Zimbabwe? Because these people have no guilt. Okay? They have no guilt. Now, let's get into what we are about to discuss today. Okay? Now, because they have no guilt, for each time Africa want to rise, okay, they come in with the same colonial mindset. Let's see what happened recently in Burkina Faso. Okay, we're going to start with that. Let's see what just happened this week. What just happened in Burkina Faso, because the new president, Traoré, decided that the resources of Burkina Faso, okay, he was going to take it from the colonial master, from the enslaver, and make it state What did they do? See what happened. These people have no guilt. Okay, folks, this is what just happened in Burkina Faso recently. Okay? Sorry. Thanks, Mihari. Okay, so what happened during the time of independence in Africa, right? When African people were getting independent, what did the colonizer do? The colonizer went ahead, right? Can you still hear me? Or you can hear me? Can you hear me now? Please say yes if you can hear me. Can you hear me? All right, let's continue. Now, so when the African nations are getting independent, the colonizer went ahead and started destroying everything that they built because they did not want to leave anything on the African continent for African people to benefit from it, right? They destroyed everything and before they left. And let's just backslide. They did the same thing even in America here. When African people were rising up, right, economically, building their own neighborhood, what did they do? What did the colonizer do? What did the enslaver do? They went ahead and bombed those places, right? They went ahead and destroyed those places, right? So that African people economically, they won't be in power. So that African people, they won't have land, okay, to economically empower themselves. That was the same thing they did on the African continent in the 60s when African nations were getting independent. Folks, the 60 is not far. The 60 is just right around the corner. All right? They went ahead and started destroying bridges and started destroying houses or roads, infrastructure that they built. They start destroying it. Okay? Now, in 2022, it's still happening. That is why these white people, they have no guilt. That is why we are not supposed to make business with them. Okay? Now, let's see what they just did.
Africa in the diaspora and the African in the continent must see this. This is French revenge against end of neocolonialism. This is a French revenge against Burkina Faso's ongoing process of nationalizing its mine resources, which angry white men, mine owners, as they destroy their cars and equipment before leaving Burkina Faso. This is not for the first time. Remember, when friends go out of the continent during independence, they distract everything, and this is what they have done again. Africa, see, they are out there. They're out there by their own, for their own, not for you and your goods. I say some investors in the continent of Africa are not for Africans, are there for their own benefits. And this is the reality. So after the country decided to nationalize their mines under the new leadership of Colonel Shaol, now those who are benefiting from the mine are decided to distract everything. Now we see they are distracting their cars. We don't know about our mines, our land. Sometimes our land has been spoiled so that we cannot produce. We have seen in Zimbabwe and other places, so they are not happy with our development. So look at this, and we say we have friends, we have investors. This is very shameful. And Africa, we need to know that no one is here for you, for your development. So what you see here is destroying of everything, machinery, cars, all equipment, so that they cannot left good things that you can benefit from these goods. So we need to build our own economy. As long as we continue to depend on others, we continue to see something like this. So I decided to share this to you so that you can understand the real issue in the continent.
All right, so you just saw what happened this week in Burkina Faso when the government decided to take the resources from the foreigner, right, to make it state-owned, right? And it went ahead, they start destroying everything. Is this how to make peace? Is this how to make peace with African people? After you're supposed to go to the African leaders and then say, look, listen, we understand, right? You guys want to take your mineral resources. But is there any way that we can collaborate? We can work together, that both nations or both continents will benefit. But no, the same attitude, the same mentality during colonial time is the same attitude and the same mentality they still have up to today, 2022. These are the same white folks that want to come and tell African people how they want to make business with African people, how they want to do X, Y, Z with African people. But deep down in your mind, look at how dirty and wicked and demonic and satanic these people are. Destroying those things that, okay, if we are not in control, we are going to make sure and destroy everything and leave nothing behind. And let's see how you're going to survive. If we are not in control, that means life will not be good for you. Life will be unbearable for you. That is exactly the mind of the colonial master. The minds of these evil people, these deceiving people. That is how they think. They have no guilt. They have no remorse. These people are fake. And that is what we're going to discuss here today. Last week, folks, I told you already, the United States and Great Britain, they have decided to let other colonizers to fall back. Okay, they have decided to let other colonizers to fall back, and then there is two so-called superpower will go on the African continent and succeed. Because if all of them come, we will notice something. So Great Britain and the United States are the two forces on the African continent right now pushing Western agenda. But that is why in this 2022, this 21st century, this new generation of African, we are only asking the African leaders to listen to us. When we bring out information like this, let them listen. The only people or the best people to listen to that they can listen to are African people. They're not paying us to do this. They are not paying us to go and do research and bring it. We are doing it because we love Africa, we love African people, and we want to be free. The colonizer have people that do research on African people, that do research on how African people are thinking and steps they are taking, right? The colonizer have people all around African community, all around African neighborhood, all around, let's say on the African continent, any black nation. The colonizer have people who go to those places that they are going for research purposes. They are going to do studies. The colonizer send them to go and get information, to go and gather data, and then bring it to them. They pay them, bring it to them, and then they sit in their house or in their parliament, in their law-making body or system, whatever they call it, and then make decision on how they can come up with new solution. The colonizer have it. We Africans don't have it. Because it's not that we can, but because our African leaders are not thinking in that direction. But however, we are not going to give up. We are going to do our own studies as we bring it. All we ask them to do, listen to us. You don't have to pay us. Because we know we will get paid when we take full control of our destination. When we become the leader of our destination. When we become the provider of our destination. That is our pay. We are not chasing money here. Okay? That is our pay. Now, let me show you a video first. And then before I can bring out an article that I want us to look into. Okay? And then we're going to discuss, we're going to link that to the COP27 they just had in Egypt. First of all, why did that happen? Why were the colonizer this time around? They are so eager to go on the African continent to go host meeting there. Is it in the interest of the African people? Hell no, it's not. The only reason why they did it is because over time, they have called African leaders in Europe, in America, in whatsoever they can do, but it's not working. So this time around, they are going to have meeting there. They have decided that, okay, now it is time that we fool these African people, we lie to these African people and go and have meeting on the African continent, and they will take us serious. But what I'm about to give you today, what I'm about to read here today, you're going to see and then do the judgment for yourself. These people are evil. And I'm calling them evil not because I hate them. It's because what they put out there and we see it. That's what makes them evil. I'm saying they have no guilt, not because I hate them. No, I don't hate them. But it's because of what they put out there and we see it. That's what makes them to have no guilt. And that is why we are unapologetic of what we say. And that is why we are going to make decision or take decision as to how we want it. All we need to do is we are asking the African leaders that are in power right now, okay, that are leading to just listen to us. Because these people, America and Great Britain, they are on the verge of recolonizing the African continent, but just in a very sophisticated way. And what I'm about to show you here today, they said it, not me. They wrote it, not me. They have figured out how they can recolonize the African continent. They have figured out how they can recolonize the African continent. The United States and Great Britain, America and Great Britain have figured out how they can recolonize the African continent. I'm not making a story here. But let's see the video from the Pan-African Parliament first, and then I will link you to where I want to link you. Now, we are not going to play the entire video because this video is long. I just want you to see something, what is going on in there, okay? And we are not going to play the whole video because it's long, but I want you to see something.
Honorable Pemi Majodina on the conflict in Congo DR. The history, Mr. President, we know it goes back to the late Patrice Lumumba. May his soul rest in peace. We know the circumstances that he was captured to Europe and Belgium, handcuffed there. There are still pictures that we all can relate to. Mr. President, the real issue here is who is behind this? Who is at the core of this conflict in DR? Not only in DR, it even goes to West Africa, where we're having a lot of coups in countries like Guinea, Mali, and others. I wish to put it on record, Mr. President, that the real problem, we are all players as Africans, and citizens of these countries are just players. The real players at the core of this conflict in Africa, particularly DRC, Congo, are the West, in particular France, Belgium, and USA. And the question is why? Let's not quote the issue or not deep down to the issue where it is. What do they look for in Africa? We know it's because of the mineral resources that we have. Look at anywhere in Africa where there's a conflict. It's either there's minerals or there's oil. Two things, oil or minerals. In Congo DRC's case, we know there's huge resources of gold, diamond, and copper. It so happens that Zambia shares the same rock of copper underground, extends into Congo, into Katanga. So they want our minerals. And to do it, how do they do it? They divide and rule us. They divide countries against countries. Then they divide citizens against citizens, from one province to another. They dig into our tribal differences of ethnicism and make us fight against each other. They sponsor. That is the truth. And that is what is happening. A rich country like DRC Congo has hardly seen peace. If you look at the Gini coefficient ratio, most people are in abject poverty. Same as Zambia, same as elsewhere. Wherever there's mineral, you find the majority are poor. And yet you have a few imperialists. We obtained a lot of political independence in Africa, but we're still enslaved economically. They still hold our minerals, and they still hold our oil. Wherever there's a coup, just know it's the oil or gold at play. So that said, as I support this motion, I thought I'd bring to the attention of this honorable house that indeed there are conflicts in DRC Congo, but until Belgium, France.
Do you trade options? Did you know that nearly half of the market is traded behind closed doors?
USA, and even the East, stay away of Africa business, stay away from our gold, stay away from our diamond, stay away from our oil. Africa is hardly going to see peace. I wish to second this motion, and I thank you, Mr. President. Thank you.
Peoples in Africa
waged wars of resistance against violent dispossession of their land and their natural resources. The African monarchs who led these wars were defeated and their people were enslaved and colonized. For more than a century, African people waged wars of national liberation for the achievement of political, social, and economic self-determination. I do not have to recall the protracted struggle led by Frelimo in Mozambique. African people, with the exception of the Sahrawi Republic, have achieved their right of political self-determination. The AU theme for 2022 calls on member states to build resilience in nutrition and accelerate human, social, and economic development. The achievement of these strategic objectives requires peace and security. I second the motion of solidarity and support to the government and people of the Republic of Mozambique, which is not selfish. This motion is not selfish. It condemns not only the cowardly acts committed by the terrorists against the people of Mozambique, particularly women, children, and the elderly, but it also condemns imperialist and neo-imperialist forces who finance, arm, and instigate terrorism and violent extremism in Mozambique and in other parts of Africa. It is not enough, therefore, Honorable President, to express the most sincere condolences to the government and people of Mozambique and other countries in Africa who are victims to these terrorist attacks. It is also not enough to commend the African Union for its support for other parts of for Mozambique and other parts of Africa. Lastly, Honorable President, I want to call on African governments and people to reawaken to the fact that the conflicts, unconstitutional changes, and terrorist attacks in Africa are part of the struggle of the imperialist and neo-imperialist forces for the control of African natural resources, which are the prerequisites for the social and economic development of Africa, which the people of Mozambique are not able to achieve because of these barbaric acts. In conclusion, Honorable President, I submit that Africa cannot and will not achieve peace and security until we end foreign ownership of our land and natural resources by foreigners. Africans must regain ownership of their land and natural resources and develop the capacity to beneficiate them and market the product for the benefit of Africans, not foreigners. Last but not least, the AU must condemn the European imperialist and neo-imperialist forces for their instigation and support of unconstitutional changes and terrorism in Africa, which impede the human, social, and economic development of the continent. I submit that maybe this matter should be escalated to the UN so that the UN adopts a new resolution on African control of hair, land, and natural resources, so that these conflicts and competition for our land and natural resources should stop. I submit, Honorable President and distinguished members.
Thank you again. Brought in the dimension of escalating to the UN. It is not part of the motion, but if the House
at Uganda discovered oil and started a process of extracting oil and gas in our country, the oil that has been, a huge amount of oil and gas has been discovered in our country. And we have made tremendous and enormous investments in this sector. All investment and feasibility studies have already been done. And we are now in the process of installing our refinery and also building a line, a pipeline that would evacuate oil from Uganda up to Tanga, which is at the seaport. Mr. President, in the process, recently the European Union, Parliament.
Order. I happen to know that Tanga is in Tanzania. Yeah, so some may know.
Now, please pay attention. This is where I'm going to stop this video when this individual speak. All right. So everything you heard in here, right? This is where exactly we're going to lead to from the article that we're going to read after I take this video out. So from what you listened to so far, all right, this is the Pan-African Parliament member right here, sitting here and having this discussion. The only thing that I didn't like from here so far that they have said is about taking a resolution to the United Nations for the United Nations to give a chapter or whatsoever the situation for African people to take hold of their resources, right? Who are the United Nations? The United Nations is the same imperialists, the same United States, the same UK. These are the United Nations. And you're talking about you taking African solution to them so that they can tell Africa to take hold of their resources, right? These are the people that do not want for African people to take hold of their resources. And are you talking about taking African issue to them? I mean, they are discussing the African issue, but at times they try to mix it up. You're talking about decolonization, and you start talking about going to the colonizer to help you to decolonize. That's just what I mean. Decolonization, go to the colonizer to help you to decolonize. Does it make sense? No. So they should take that off the motion of going to the United Nations. So that is man speak, and I will take the video out, and then we will see. But everything you see happening here, right, is all about they have come to the realization that even on the African continent, the terrorist activities going on there are being supported by the same Western, are being supported by the same imperialists, by the same colonizer. Okay? They are the people supporting the terrorist activities on the African continent just to have a destabilized continent so that they can continue to exploit the resources. And to make a valid point, everywhere on the African continent, there are resources. Everywhere in Black nation that there are resources, right? Gang violence always there. Terrorist activities always taking place. And that is a fact. They are done with the Middle East. They have destabilized the entire Middle East because they wanted oil. And the only way they could get the people oil was to go destabilize the place, sponsor terrorist activities, and then get their oil. And after that, they left. They came on the African continent. Now they are destabilizing the African continent, supporting terrorist activities, and then lying to African people that they want to bring in their military bases to help fight terrorists. And these are the things they will always say when they're meeting African people. Oh, you know, terrorist activities are taking place on the African continent. We are coming to help you people to fight. Did they help the Middle Eastern people to fight the terrorists, or they sponsor terrorists and stole the people resources? These are things that we need to look at when America is coming to us, when Great Britain is coming to us, telling us they want to come help us to solve African problem. When they was not on the African continent, we were not experiencing terrorist activities. But the moment they start putting their bases, their useless bases on the African continent, we start experiencing terrorist activities, bombing places. We start experiencing all kind of jihadi, Al-Qaeda, and all of those things on the African continent. And that is why exactly they are saying here. And the fact that they have seen African people taking the step, they have gone ahead. These people are always ahead of African people. Because why? They have planted trees, or they have planted people all around the African continent, in every Black nation, to do the research for them, to be the eye for them, to see what step African peoples are taking. And then they put a database together. So that is why they are always in Black nation acting that they are doing research, they are doing this, they are coming for missionary, they are coming to help us. But no, they are there collecting data, they are there collecting information for the next step they will take. And they have come to the realization that they have narrowed it down, that the only way Europe and America can succeed in Africa is for them to strategically, how to call it, to strategize on how they can recolonize the African continent. 2 of them. Okay? So let's see here. Let's play this video and then I will take it out. That is God talk. And then I will take it out, then we'll go to the article.
I don't know where Tanga is. Thank you.
Mr. President, Tanga is a port on the coast of Tanzania. So the pipeline is going to be built from Uganda up to Tanga port to evacuate oil, crude oil that is extracted from Uganda. Recently, the European Union passed a resolution stopping holding.
I get paid over $10,000 a month to do what you are literally doing right now. Watch video.
Uganda from investing in the refinery and also in the construction of the line. Their argument was that in Uganda, the pipeline is going to pass in the forest reserve. That will disturb the peace of the elephants and animals. So in that case, Uganda should not do it because it's going to affect the peace of the animals in the forest. Secondly, they were misinformed that the people's affected, project affected persons were not compensated. But from our record, all of them were compensated, and the country is in the process of resettling them and compensating them promptly. So in this respect, they were also saying that the European Union should stop Uganda from doing it because it will affect the carbon emission. And I wonder, because some of the countries emit more than 27%, but there are no sanctions against them. For example, America emits more than 27% of green gas emission, but there is no sanction against those countries. Even in the European countries, their contribution to green gas emission is more than 26%, but there is no sanction against them. They have never stopped them from investing in fossil oil. And therefore, Mr. President, we want to appeal to this parliament to come to our support, to support Africa's development, because this is not only on Uganda. This is covering the entire Africa. They don't want us to invest in green gas. And yet, this investment can change the lives of our people. For example, we are going to get billions of dollars, and this money can be invested in education, be invested in research, be invested in the, infrastructure development, and it will improve the livelihood of our people. And this project being stopped, it will affect the development and the process of empowering our own people. And therefore, I want to appeal to the entire parliament to give us the support and allow Uganda to proceed with the extraction of our oil and gas. I beg to move, Mr. President.
Project. I think before EU goes to EU Parliament and make this decision, consultations need to be done. We are a continent that we want to move to create employment for our people, to have infrastructural development. This is our own problem. I don't think EU can have such a power to stop the process that is going on in Uganda. I give my 100% support to it.
Thank you. I see. Is that Cote d'Ivoire? No. Patrick, but then the one behind. Yes. Professor Doma, I've heard about it. Proceed.
Thank you, Honorable President. I think the issues that Uganda is facing now is what our beloved professor from South Africa said. The European powers and the West are actually want to subordinate Africa again. Africa has the right to use its natural resources. It needs to employ its young people, and the African Union as well as this parliament has to support and stand behind Uganda to use its natural resource and pass a resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Professor Damai, Honorable Professor Damai.
Yes, I will be a proposer since it is announced by the president. I was thinking that we should not even debate on this motion because let Uganda go ahead, let them attack.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the video is long. I'm not going to play the whole thing because of time. But like the last speaker said, let Uganda go ahead and extract our mineral resources for the benefit of Ugandan, for the benefit of African, and let the European people attack. Let America go and attack. Let them go and put sanction on the African continent. Let them go and put sanction on Uganda. Okay? Because they had no guilt. Let them attack. And this is how we Africans need to be thinking now. We are not supposed to be afraid of these people. Let me tell you something. This is what they want us to do. You know what? Let's get into the Bible. That's what this channel is for. Okay? Let's get into the Bible here. I'm here to preach today as well. So this is how they want for African people to be. All right, I'm going to give you 3 scriptures, and you're going to see how these 3 scriptures are going to align with each other on how these people are thinking about African people, how they want us to be. Let's see this scripture right here. Okay, so when they wrote the Bible, right? This is the Bible right here. This is what the Bible, right? Okay, this is the same Holy Bible they use to fool our people. Okay, they use and they lie to our people, they enslave our people, where about 100 Africans will be subdued by one white man or 2 white men. One white man will subdue and lynch 50 to 100 Africans just because of this Bible. Why they want to rewrote, they paraphrase, and they put in here to treat African people the way they date. Okay, let's see here. But that is why we will continue to tell them, we know these things now. We know the Bible now too, more than them. And we'll use the same Bible on them to expose them. So let's see here. What's the first one? Ephesians. Let's go to Ephesians here. Let's see what Ephesians 6 verse 5 says. Okay? Now, bear with me, folks. That's what this channel is about. Because we want to bring out things here, okay? So Ephesians 6 verse 5, it says here 7, okay? 7 African, right? African people are the people that have been 7 to the white man. Now listen what it says here. 7, be obedient to them. To who? To them. To who? The white man. Okay? Your master. 7, be obedient to them that are your master. So in other words, for in Europe, for what they have done to us, to African people, for them to come out with a resolution, right? To stop African people, resources that they have stored century upon century, to build their institution, to build their country, their factory, right? This time around, African people are taking the mandate or the mantle, right, to take their resources to develop their continent for their people, for their population. But Europe is coming out, passing resolution, telling African nations not to extract their resources, right? Like what France did in Burkina Faso. After the Burkina Faso have took their resources to nationalize it, they went ahead and start destroying everything. That is to say, we are 7. We are not supposed to take decision. We should listen to our master. Because for each time we want to take decision, our master will lynch on us. Our master will come down on us. So that is why we are destroying those things. Because we are 7, we need to listen to our master. Because we are 7, we need to listen to what our master says. When they pass resolution, we shouldn't extract our resources. We should leave it unto them. We should respect them. We should be obedient to them. Right? 7, be obedient to them that are your master according to the flesh, with fear and trembling. We should fear them. That is why during slavery, one white man will subdue 50 to 100 a black person, because they used, this was the word they preached to our people. So when our people see one white man, they all start trembling, they all start fearing. And one white man will lynch, will beat, will take advantage over 50 to 100 black men. Heroes, fighters, warriors. One tiny white man will come and take advantage of them because of what they put in here. They taught our people. Be afraid of them. That is why in here. Be trembling when you see them. That is why in here. And this is what they taught our people. And this is what they are still teaching us. That is why when something happened, even in the diaspora, in America here, when black people began to take stand to do something, what the media say? The media will always refer to the Bible. The media will always refer to the church. When it comes to black issue, then they will tell black people, where are the pastors? Where are the churches? That's the time they refer to black people. But when a white person, when things happen to them, they don't say, where are the white pastors? Where are the white churches? They say, where are the lawmakers? Where are the representatives? Where are your senators? Where is the president? Where are the governors? That's what they do. But when it comes to black, then they say, where are the clergymen? Where are the churches? The churches are not teaching. The churches are not teaching the youth. That means they are trying to say they are not teaching the slave to become obedient. They are not teaching the slave to respect their master, to fear their master, to tremble. They are not teaching the slave. They are teaching the slave to stay on their own. That is what they put in here. And these are the things they were teaching our people. That's why our people were afraid. And that is why even up to today, our people are still afraid to stand up for the truth. Because we still have our so-called pastors, our so-called Christians in those churches preaching the same thing to our people. Now look at another chapter. Look right here again, another one. Now look at Luke. Okay? Now look at Luke here. What Luke say here. Now look at Luke here. Look what? Now look at Luke 12, verse 47. Let's see here. Luke 12, verse 47. Where is it? Come outside here. You. Come outside here. Where you at here? Okay. Luke 12, verse 47. Look where is it here. And that's 7. Again, 7. And that 7, which know his Lord. Now, they did not say which know the law. If they said the law, then that means they are talking about the Most High, the Creator, the law. But they say his law. And the law they put here is small letter. What that mean? The master, the slaveholder, the colonizer. Did you see that? These are the things they were teaching our people. And they are still teaching our people. And we have these so-called Christian pastors still teaching this rubbish to our people. And that 7, which know his law, which know his master, will and prepare not himself. Do not prepare yourself to go against your master. Do not empower yourself to go against the wishes of your master. Do not be self-independent. Be dependent on your master. Do not take your resources. Leave your resources. Let your master come and use you, exploit it, and then take it to America and Europe and process it and bring some to you. Do not be self-empowered. Now look at the next one. Timothy 6 verse 1. Where is Timothy? Come outside here. Come here. Come here. Where is Timothy right here? Where you are here? Timothy 6 verse 1. Look at this again. let as many 7 black people, they ain't talking about white people here. Let as many 7 as I honor UNDER. I honor the yoke can their own master. Let me read this. Let me take time and read it. Let as many 7 as I honor the yoke come their own master worthy of all honor. Worthy of all honor. We should give all honor to our master. We should not react to our master. Even if they are entry to us, we shouldn't react. We shouldn't comment. We shouldn't go against them. We should give them all the honor, all the respect. Give it to them. Bow down to them. Wash your feet. Listen to what they say and go by it. When they say don't extract your resources, don't do it. Let them come and do it. Honor them in every ways. Fear them. That was what teaching our people. But we said to them, no. We are not going to fear you no more. We are not going to honor you no more. And that is why exactly they put in the article we are about to read. I'm sorry, the resolution that they talk about in this video, I was unable to bring that out. But what I'm about to read, it was something that they wrote before they came out of the resolution. They wrote this already. Okay, then after this, what can we do now to stop the 7? What can we do to stop the slave? And that's why it was from this, what I'm about to read to you, they came out of the resolution. Let's get into it. That's why these people have no guilt. They have satanic mind, satanic behavior. They are not there to work with African people. And what I'm saying here, when they see this, when they listen to this, you think they will like what I'm saying because I'm exposing them. They will hate me. They won't like me. Let's see the article here. What the nasty thing they say here in this thing. Now, this is what they say here. Their link is posted, okay? It's very good. It's long because these people plan, they started these things around 2021. That's the time they started these things. And what they have in here, they have is a plan that they have drawing up to 2050. You know, just how, you know, these people, they study African people, but we don't study them. Okay? We don't study them. You know, when African people, when AU came out and said by the year 2023 will be the year of silence of gun on the African continent. But does that going to happen? It could have happened, but because these people study us. So when they said by the year 2023, it will be the year of silence of gun on the African continent, these people came out with tactics. Okay? With tactics that the African people will have to make sure they should not unite. And some of those things that was going to unite us, right? You know why it was going to be? It's something that people are not thinking about, but it was going to unite African people. It was the beginning. Just having one currency. It was a sign of uniting African people to fight together. Having one bank, it was a sign of uniting African people to stick together to start solving the other thing of the puzzle. It's a puzzle. The whole thing about African freedom, about African liberation is a puzzle. The puzzle have to come together because it can't come together as one. But it's a puzzle. You bring this puzzle, the next one come, and the next one come. Okay? It's a puzzle. So when they saw that, they went into it, they infiltrated that, and they stopped it. for it not to happen. Now, when they did that, they continued the terrorist activities on the African continent because we are already divided. We did not come together to have one currency. Okay? Divide and conquer. They did that. We did not come together to have one bank. We did not come together to have one army. So divide and conquer. So once that happened, there was nothing. What did they do? They start increasing more terrorist activities on the African continent. They start funding more terrorist activities on the African continent. They start giving a sophisticated weapon to the terrorists on the African continent. When they place these people out, there will be no peace. They won't think about innovation. They won't think about coming together. All they will think about how they can eat and move on. And it will depend on us. That's how they succeeded. So let's see what's going on here, okay? Now, they say, what does the European Green Deal mean for Africa? What does it mean? It was from days, right? It was from days, and they created the resolution. So this is the brainstorming for them. And then after this brainstorming, now what is the solution as to how we can regain Africa, how we can control Africa, how we can recolonize Africa? But this time around, we cannot go as Europe versus America. We have to go Great Britain with the two superpower, Great Britain and the United States. These people are enemies to the African continent. And we say it with no fear because they are. They prove it to us and they show it to us in their rhetoric, in their attitude, and their behavior. Now, let's see here. Let's see here. First of all, it says summary. I'm going to read a summary, but not all, because I really want to get down to somewhere, okay? Now, they say on July 14, 2021, the European Commission adopted a set of intermediate proposal to cut greenhouse gas emission by 55% from 1990 level by 2030 as part of a broader European Green Deal. Now, they did not say the war as part of the war, right? They said European. So, and everything we're going to read here is all about Europe, Europe. This is Europe. This is Europe. Like I said, America have her own too, but they are the same. Because the two superpower are the one who want to control Africa right now because they have narrowed it down. They cannot go all together. Because you see what happened in Burkina Faso? The French are leaving. So they have seen that people don't like the French people on the African continent. They don't like Macron on the African continent. So they have to tell Macron to back off. Because if they use Macron, we're going to say, well, United States working with Macron, we don't like Macron, or we don't like France. Great Britain working with Macron, we don't like Macron because we don't like France. But equally so, they are the same colonizer. So they have to tell France to back off because we still have Mumu African that believe in the United States policy. We still have African Mumu that believe in Great Britain policy. But United States is the same as France. Great Britain is the same as France because they all have the same agenda. They all have African slaves. They all have, how they call it, colonize the African continent. They all were in the 1884 Berlin Conference. So what is to United States, is to Great Britain, is to France. Let's see here. Okay? European Green Deal. Now, the European Green Deal, EDG, is a set of long-term policy. Now you see it. Foreign policy. Okay? Foreign policy, long-term policy initiate that define the European Union. They did not say that define the war or that define Africa and Europe and the war. That define European Union climate strategy to teach the net zero, to teach net zero emission by 2050 and aim to make Europe the first mover in international climate policy change or climate change or climate policy. Now you see right here, right? There is nothing in here that's saying it will uplift Africa. But the language you have here is a new strategy, okay, that will put Europe at the top, that will put Europe the colonial master, that will put Europe to where it is so that it cannot lose its place. Okay? It is a foreign policy that has been initiated specifically that define the road of Europe, that define the road of European Union climate strategy to reach net zero emission by 2050. They are not talking about the war. They care about them. Now let's see this. Toward this goal, the EGD provide a broad map for a social ecological transition to a low carbon future, and the building block for green a green economic growth strategy. Now, economic growth strategy solely for England, solely for the West, solely for the United States, because we are getting into a new period, into a new century. Okay? Now, listen to this. The implication for Africa I manifested most prominently a decline in European demand for fossil fuel alongside rising demand for cobalt. Now, what do they want in Africa here? Now, recently, right in South Africa, that is why the EFF is fighting against right now. Okay? The European Union, Ramaphosa, another puppet, the European Union has signed a deal with Ramaphosa to stop what? Coal mining. Coal mining that the British government have done for so long in South Africa to build Europe, to build England, right? Now, when the South Africans are now taking over it to build South Africa, to improve the life of South Africans, the European Union or Parliament have come out with a resolution to stop South Africa from mining. So now, listen what they say here, okay? So this whole thing about this whole nonsense of climate change, this whole thing about this whole nonsense of COP27 that happened in Egypt is a fallacy. And we're going to see that in this paper we're reading here today. Now, 8 implications for Africa are manifested. Most prominently, a decline in European demand for fossil fuel alongside rising demand. So, they're leaving one area, they're going to another area. Say they're leaving the fossil fuel or the coal mining, that means African people should not mine coal. African people should not empower themselves, right? So, there is a rising demand for cobalt, nickel, and critical mineral for the energy transition will greatly affect global market and, by implication, the economy of oil-dependent and mineral-rich African country. Okay? So all these things is about the white people. It's about their continent. It's about their country. It's about their land, not African people. Because nothing they have done that have given benefit to Africa. For so long, these people have been stealing, exploiting the African continent. What have Africa benefit from? They have come to us and lied to us about sustainable development between Europe and America, Africa, and the world. Where did that sustainable development carry us? They came to lie to us about modern technology between the West, Europe, America, and Africa. What did they do to us? What that modern technology have done to Africa? Where did they reach? Nothing, nowhere. Now, the economic-wide effect of the EGD, however, extends beyond the energy transition. This paper identified the implication of the EDG for African countries in 7 main areas. Agriculture. Now, this is what I want to look at, right? Agriculture, biodiversity, energy, critical raw material, circular economic, new technology. Again, they put technology in here. New technology and finance. Okay? Now, they did not say technology because they can't use technology now, right? They have to put new to it. And to say the first old technology they brought, Africa benefited from it. The first old technology you brought, you lied to us, we did not benefit from. So the new technology that we're going to benefit from. Now, they say agriculture. Isn't these were the same people that told us, right, our way of life was bad. We should take their way of life. We should take their religion, their belief. What happened? They used their belief, their religion, they lied to us, they colonized us, they enslaved us. Right? The God they brought to us, the God did not save Africa. They said our God that we serve, our God can save us. But their God that they serve, their God that they brought to us, their God did not save us, but their God enslaved us. Their God colonized, or their God torture or lynch us, bring or castrate us, rape us for century upon century. Now they say they are coming with new agriculture system. There have been agriculture system in Europe and America for centuries, for ages. Why didn't they take that agriculture system in Africa a long time? They have equipment, machinery here, how they call it, machinery here. They didn't take it there. Long time they didn't take it there. Africa have starved, and there have been millions of deaths just from food, just from starvation. They didn't take it there. It is this time around that African people are waking up and taking matter into their own hand to grow their own food, to become their own agriculture, to become their own dependent. It is the time now they want to come in to say, oh no, do not go and farm by yourself. Do not go and do agriculture by yourself. We will do it. We will come. And let me tell you how they want to do it. They want to go on the African continent, right? And I will tell you the reason why they're talking about agriculture. Let me get that before, because I may not get it. The reason why they are talking about agriculture, my battery is getting low. I need to go for my charger. The reason why they are talking about agriculture on the African continent, right? Ukraine is no longer producing food because Ukraine was supporting them. Europe is starving right now. Taiwan, they depend on Taiwan. China, they depend on China. Those places are not supporting them now. So the only place they can go now to establish agriculture is the African continent. So they want to go there and invest in agriculture, but stay. Those products will be coming to Europe and America. It will not be in Africa. They're not going to do it to do international, how they call it, continental, how they call it, trade among African people, among African nations. That is not where it's going to be for. They're going to control it. They're going to invest in it, right? But they will lie to you, say we're going to invest in it, that Africa will benefit. No, the mineral resources that they control in Africa, Africa benefit from it. Africa no benefit. They extract our mineral resources, take it into Europe and America and Asia and Germany, Portugal, Spain, all those places. Africa benefit from it? We don't. That should be an example. They control the mineral resources since colonial time. Africa do not benefit. We are still suffering right now to take our mineral resources from them. Then we should allow them to come again and take our land. In South Africa, they own the land. South African benefit from it. They own the land. They had the agriculture. South African, black South African are starving, are hungry. In Zimbabwe, they own the land there that Robert Mugabe was suffering to take from them. But Zimbabwe people are suffering, struggling, starving. And when the people were advocating to take the land, they put sanction on the people. And sanction are still on the people because the people are still adamant of taking their land back. That should be an example when we see these fake people coming on the African continent talking about agriculture. This is how they want to steal the land. This is how they want to get the land back. So, Africa, the United States and Great Britain, this is the strategy that they are using to come back and take the land back from us. Let's go down further. Let's go down further now. Okay? Let's go down further because there are places I want us to reach. Now, they say a shifting demand. Okay? The article is so long, but I posted it. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. Okay? But I want you to take your time to go through and see the nonsense they put in here, the BS they put in here. Shifting demand from fossil fuel to clear energy sources. That is the only reason why these people are going on the African continent having COP27 in Egypt. That was the only reason they went there for. But they have no reasons of going there. Now listen to this. The EGD energy strategy aim to secure affordable energy supply, increase clean energy, and replace fossil fuel in the carbon-intensive energy mix. Now, this fossil fuel, where it is being used mostly, in Europe and America, not Africa. African people are not benefiting from it. Okay? So let's listen to this. In achieving this objective, a European phase out of oil by 2050. So you see it, right? In order to achieve this, in order to leave from fossil fuel, right, to the new strategic policy they have in place, Europe had to phase out of oil. Europe had to leave oil. Okay? And if they leave oil, that they will no longer depend on oil, because the reason why they are doing this, they also want to punish Russia. Okay? They also want to punish Russia. All right? So how can they punish Russia? They can punish Russia through Africa. That is why you see them laying on Africa. They are depending on Africa to survive. The resources that they want to use to provide energy for them in Europe and America, it comes from Africa. So it's a plan that is already in power. So by 2050, they will no longer depend on oil. Then they will tell Russia, that's your damn business. At that time now, they will be on the African continent exploiting. So they want to do that by first getting the land. That is why they hate Burkina Faso. That is why they don't like Burkina Faso. That is one reason Joe Biden said we are not going to give money to Burkina Faso. That is why they are destroying their property in Burkina Faso. That is the behavior of the colonial master. They did it in the 60s, and they are still doing it because they had no guilt. Are these the kind of people we want to work with? People that don't even recognize their ill behavior against African people? Let's continue here. Let's continue here. European phase out of oil by 2050 could lead to a decrease in oil demand and declining prices for African supply, particularly after 2030. Now, let me make this for you. Why will it decline? Why will it decline in African supply? Because our resources on the African continent, we do not use it intercontinentally. We do not use it to benefit other African nations. All we think about feeding the colonial master, and that is why we're suffering. That is why we are suffering on the African continent. Because our resources, we take it and send it abroad to them. So, if they turn away from fossil fuel, what will happen? That's what it says here. The price of it will decline in Africa because we do not use it in Africa. We take it and send it to the colonial master. We send it to our master, like the Bible says. Do not go against them. Listen to what they say. If they say, feed all of your resources and starve, do it. Because your reward is in heaven. When you feed your master, your reward will be in heaven. Starve and go to heaven. Then enjoy and go to hell. If you starve your master, you will go to hell. But if you feed your master and you starve, when you die, you will go to heaven. That is what exactly it means. That's what it said. The poor shall go to heaven. The poor shall inherit heaven. When we read those things now, then we say, but then I will feed our master. You see it? That is why prices will decline in Africa. That is why things will decline in Africa. Because we do not trade among ourselves. Like how we did it before the 1600. We trade among ourselves. Things are difficult because we do not trade among ourselves. We take everything and send it to Europe and America. And when America possession us, when Europe possession us, then things become difficult for us. When they say we do not want your supply, we take in new phase, we take in new measure, we take in new policy, things become difficult for us. Let's continue here. Let's continue here. Fossil fuel phase out is already causing a decline in upstream investment, by European Development Agency. Now, let's go a little bit down. We didn't get to the main area here. I just reading some stuff so you can see the dot. Now, rising demand for critical raw material. Now, this rising demand for critical raw material, that is why Europe and America are so bitter. Time is not on their side. Time is not on their side. And if we African people, we are not researching to understand the direction of these people, to understand their policy, it will be late for us. Nkrumah warned us seriously. Nkrumah told us the colonialists are not asleep when it comes to exploiting African people, when it comes to taking advantage of African people. It is in the same way we African people are not supposed to be asleep. Now, rising demand for critical raw material. Who's speaking here? This is Europe and America. Let's continue here. Low carbon energy strategy. Low carbon energy strategy envisioned in the EGD will depend on the CRM input for clean energy and technology. Consumption of the CRM is projected to increase by a factor of 4 for granite, 5 for cobalt. Now, these are the resources, not the one, okay? Granite, cobalt, and 18 for lithium by 2030. So they already have that plan. And why are they getting these resources? They don't have it. They don't have these resources. They don't have the granite. They don't have the cobalt. They don't have the lithium. They don't have it. They're going to get it from African nations by 2030. So this is why they are fighting so hard. This is why when they even have that COP27 meeting in Ethiopia, or let's say in Egypt, this is what it was for, to fool African leaders, to lie to African leaders. And this is one reason, December 12th to the 13th, African leaders are coming here again in Washington, D.C. to meet Joe Biden. Let's continue here. And by a factors of 13, for granite, 14 for cobalt, and nearly 60 for lithium by 2050. So you see, right? By 2030, right? Because they are still trying to convince African to get African, right? So what they did here, they said we can't go high. So by 2030, for granite, they should have what? 4. For cobalt, 5. For lithium, right? 18. Now, by the time they get into 2050, right? This is how it should be. Now, granite rose from 4 to 13, right? Now, cobalt rose from 5 to 15, okay? Now, lithium rose from what? 18 to 60 by 2050. So, there is nothing here that's talking about how Africa is going to benefit. This is all about how Africa is going to build Europe. This is how they are talking about how Europe is going to be by 2050. How African resources going to transform Europe from this phase it is to the next phase. How African resources are going to transform America from this phase to the next phase. Nothing here is talking about how Africa is going to rise. How Africa is going to be from this phase to the next phase. All is about them. Currently, the US, the EU scores, currently the EU sources 28% of its barrett need from Morocco, 64% of bauxite from Guinea, 68% of cobalt, and 30%, that's a 36% of titanium from the Democratic Republic of Congo. So all of these things here that they are naming here, anything benefit Africa? Did they give any percent that are going to Africa? There is no percentage that are going to Africa. Now, and it said about 90% of the platinum group metal PGM from South Africa. Now, 90% are the black South African enjoying from it. So there is nothing here about that climate change that is in the interest of Africa. Let's continue here. Other countries such as Ghana, Zambia. Now, these are things they sat down. No African leaders were here. These are all European, just had a Berlin. No African leaders sitting here. But they sat down and they're discussing Africa like they how disgusting these people are. Other countries such as Ghana, Zambia, and Zimbabwe also have the potential to supply copper, how they call it, copper, PGM, and bauxite to Europe. Are you seeing here? This is again negligent on the part of African people. Because we do not use our resources for the continent, for our people, for our own benefit. Let's continue here. The projected demand in CRM create opportunity for Africa to replace Asian supply chain. Now you see what's going on here, right? So you see what's going on here. To replace Asian supply chain. So this is what exactly they are doing. So as they also want to punish Russia, China, right? They know China depend on Africa when it comes to this oil. So in order to or they fossil fuel or they coal mining, right? Now, in order to punish China, they have to make sure to stop Africa from producing these things. They have to make sure to stop China, to stop Africa from getting money from China, from trading with China when China wants these resources. Because for them, for America and Europe, they did not trade with China, with Africa. They were getting all these things free. If you can't do it, they put sanction on you, they remove your government, they infiltrate your system and put in new government. That's how they was getting it. But in order to stop them, they had to convince African people first to stop it. So you see here, the projected demand in CRM create opportunity for Africa to replace Asian supply chain. These are, however, risks of enforcing technology. You see here? Or reinforcing technology dependency for Africa. You see it, right? Now, let's continue down. I won't get to somewhere quick. Because there is somewhere I want us to get before my computer battery is going low. Now, let's see something here. The article is very rich, but I'm going to skip. Actually, you can later read it. Okay, so policy recommendation. Okay, policy recommendation. So, like I said, it was from here. The so-called Great Britain came out with a resolution to stop African nations, okay, from mining their own resources. How can that even happen? Are they still taking us to be a slave or colony? Oh yes, they mention in here that Africans are still a colony, okay? But they did not use the word colony exactly, but they mention it in here. I don't know if we'll reach that, or I may read it, but you can also read it. Now, they said policy recommendation. The EGD is mainly an internal policy instrument. What does that mean? It's mainly the EGD policy is not global policy. It's not international. Okay? It's internal policy. It's foreign policy. But listen, they don't want to use the word foreign policy. They don't want to use the word foreign policy. You will get sense. Because they have been using the word foreign policy and they know that African people have come to realize what foreign policy entails. So they say internal policy, foreign policy instrument. Yet a potential global payload over will reach African country in view of the strong economic and historical tie between the continent. You see that nonsense report here? First of all, read it. They already told you the policies of this whole agenda that they come in Africa, relation, new climate change, technology, agriculture, and all of those things is internal policy, is foreign policy. They already told you here. And then they came out a lot to you that it will be global, it will bring out a global payload. And I misinformation right here. But the word is so nice. If you read it and you're not careful to analyze it, to understand, you will fall for it. Let's continue here. They say such effect will be felt in the market for agriculture. So you see again, they use the word agriculture here, right? They come and take your land. But like I said, I South African benefiting from 9% of white people that own the farming land in South Africa. No. Are Zimbabwe benefiting from a few percent of white that own the farming land in Zimbabwe? No. That is why people are starving and people are hungry. Now, they say controlling our land, money, and all of those things, we don't benefit from it. Now, they lie to us that, oh, we don't have to make farm. They don't sponsor agriculture in Africa. We should be dependent on them to feed us. That's why we're suffering, we're starving, we're dying. Let me go all the way down because European Green Deal, a vision to combat climate change. Now, let's read something here, okay? I'm going to be skipping because it's too long. I'm going to be skipping. Now, the EGD is a roadmap for a social ecological transition to a low carbon future and provide building block for a green economy strategy in Europe. Now, did you hear anything here that say to build economic strategy in the world? Did they say to build economic strategy for mankind? Did they say to build economic strategy for Europe and Africa? No. That's the word they have here. The EGD is a roadmap for a social ecological transition. What transition in the first place? The transition that they are in today to a new transition of how they will control African people. Okay? Now, let's see this here. All the things they're talking about here, everything that they have said here, right? You read it. You ask it, read it and go through it. Read it, go through it, right? And ask yourself, why are they only focusing on Africa? How we have 7 continents. We have 7 continents. All right? We have 7 continents. So why are they not focusing on Australia? So only Africa will save the world, the planet. Only Africa will save the planet. Right? Why are they not focusing on the rest of the other continents to save the planet? Only Africa can save the planet. That is to say, only Africa can save Europe and America. Only Africa can save the West. And that is what it says here clear. The EGT is a roadmap for social ecological transition to a new carbon future, where in Europe, not feature in Africa, and provide building blocks for a green economic strategy in Europe. How Africa can improve the economic of Europe in a new phase by 2050. It comprises 8 detailed policy areas, as well as a European climate path and European climate law. Did you see anything here to say European and Africa or the world climate change or path or climate law for the world? But it said European climate law. Now, it was from here they came out with a resolution. It was from here they came out with laws to stop African people from mining their resources. This whole climate change is a BS. It's not real. It's not real. These people have lied to us since the 1600s. They went to the African continent and we fought for it. Are we going to fall for it this time again? Are we going to fall for it this time again? Folks, let me take my charger. Hold on. Let me get my charger. I'll be back. My computer is going off. Okay, I'm back. Okay, I'm back. But I'm going to go way down to the end because of time. The article is long. I'm not going to read the whole time. I'm going to go way down to the end. So you can see something here. I'm going to go way down to the end to the Sorry, let me read something here before I can go way down to the end. All right, let me read something here. Now, the emerging path towards a net zero carbon future, as outlined in the EGD, matter greatly for African countries. The EU is the world's third largest economic after China and the United States. Okay, now, first of all, how can Africa, not even here, how can Africa have diverse resources? Okay, and then we are not even among the booming economic in the world. But yet they say, right, they did not make the United States, Great Britain, or China to be in a third place, right? They all get it from Africa. What is wrong with us? Let's continue here. Let's continue here. The EU is the world's third largest economic after China and the United States, representing 16% of global gross domestic product. In purchasing power, priority. It is also one of the three largest actors in the international trade, accounting for 15.6% for global import and export. All right, let's go down. I don't want to waste my time on that. Let's see. Africa in the EGD. Now, where does Africa stand in the EGD, right? The number at stake. Now, let's see here. So, this so-called climate change is something that Africans should not even look at. Now, let's see here. What made Africa to fall back, right? What made Africa the way it is, how they can disrupt Africa, a whole continent, a third world. Let's see here. The African continent exports 5 billion Europe, which is 19.6 billion worth of agricultural product or produce to the EU, with agri-food making up to 16% of EU-Africa trade. Now, this is what makes African people hungry, no food on the continent. How can we African, okay, food that we export to Europe, right? 5 billion in food, which is 19.6 billion in United States dollars. And yet they stay then we say we're hungry. Yet they stay then we say no food on the African continent. You know why this happened? It happened because we do not trade among ourselves. If we were trading among ourselves, right, we will not be hungry. If we were trading among ourselves, this money will circulate among ourselves. If we were trading among ourselves, food will be surplus on the African continent. If we were trading among ourselves, then by now we have one currency. And because they do not want us to trade among ourselves, that is why they make sure Africa do not have one currency. And if Africa do not have one currency, that means we will have to trade our resources in Europe and to America, because we depend on the European and American dollars. If we trade among ourselves in Africa and have one currency, our currency, the African currency, will beat the American dollar. The African currency will beat the European currency. You know why? Because we have the resources. That means If America want our resources, they have to get it in African currencies. If Europe want our resources, they have to get it in African currency, and which of course they want it because they don't have it. And they will. That is why life is difficult on the African continent. Let's see here. And they know it. Now, in 2019, oil export represented the largest share of EU-Africa trade, with the EU importing 442 million barrels of crude oil worth 7 billion euro, worth 55.7 billion from African countries. Look at African people. Why are we suffering? Why are we hungry? Why we have these resources, we can benefit from it. We cannot benefit from it. We can. Look at barrels. Okay? Look at barrels. 842 million barrels of crude oil that worth 7 billion euro, worth 55.7 billion United States dollars. And we send it to these people. And all of these came from around the African continent. That is why the unification of Africa is important. That is why African leaders need to come together. African leaders, we are the problem for ourselves. We are causing a problem for ourselves. The circumstances we are going through today, it is because of ourselves, you people in power. Let's continue here. That is why this whole climate change is not in support of the African continent, because it is about lying to Africa and then allow America and Europe to come and retake the African continent and recolonize us and make us slave and make us dependent on them and make our Negroes more Negro. Let's continue here. Africa is the fastest growing region of gas production at an average growth rate of 5.6% per year. And according to the International Energy Agency, it is expected to account for 295 billion cubic meters of global supply in 2025. Now, this global supply they're talking about, 295 billion cubic meters of global supply in 2025. African people are not going to benefit from it. It is the same colonizer. Because we Africans have not yet come to realize it, that we need to benefit from our own resources. We have not yet come to realize that America is reserving her resources. We have not yet come to realize that Europe is reserving her own resources. You think God did not give them some? The Creator gave them some. But these people are so evil. They're keeping it for their next generation. And then they exploit us. When we say no, they put sanction on us. They divide us, they conquer us. While they continue to exploit from us and they reserve their resources. Let's continue here. So while they're talking about 2025, Africa is not going to benefit. That is why they want this climate change to take place. That is why they are so eager. Oh, Africa this, Africa this. Because they want to get hold of Africa if African leaders don't stand up. It is not about the money, Africans. It is not about the money. Let's continue. Europe gas import requirement will remain stable until 2025. You see it? It will remain stable until 2025 and will rise thereafter to supplement declining domestic gas production. Let's continue here. So you see right here, Africa in the EGD, the number at stake. It is at stake. They know it. It is at stake. They know it. Let's continue here. Green hydrogen FDI from Europe to Africa could reach 75.6 billion euro. 90 billion by 2030. Okay? Now, let's continue here. I mean, it's there. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Anyway, let me go down so you can read it. I posted a link. Now, 7 implications of the EGD for Africa. 7 implications. I got to go down straight. New agriculture standard. Farm to fork energy, right? Like I said, I'm not going to go into this. I already explained this, right? These people have been having equipment, modern equipment, making farm in America or in Europe, right? They did not take it to Africa. But because the war is at stake, Ukraine is not farming, Taiwan, China, these people that depend on, they no longer depend on it. This is the time they're talking about. They want to carry modern equipment to Africa, right? Now, all these are another BS. After they want to take the land. Just how they did it in South Africa and Zimbabwe, that's how they want to do it in all parts of Africa. It is not going to benefit African people. It is not. So that's the kind of agriculture they're talking about here. They take the land and they use African workers, just how they're doing it in South Africa and in Zimbabwe. They use African workers, right, to send the produce to Europe, to America, to Great Britain, to Netherlands. They send the produce there for their citizens to eat. But yet instead, African people are still starving. Oh yeah, they did not do slavery in America here on a plantation. Where African farmers could not eat watermelon, they had to put lock to their mouth and lock it up so that they can't eat from the watermelon, so that they can't drink, because even they working, they thirsty. They were not giving them water. So if they eat the watermelon, they have some water in it, it will cool their thirst. They put lock to their mouth from their eating. That's the same thing going on in South Africa. They not put lock to their mouth, but they farm and they're hungry. They take the food to Great Britain and to Netherlands and to Europe. They're doing the same thing in Zimbabwe. So that's what they want to do, to come and take the land and then come and lie to us. Oh, we are coming with new equipment of technology so that we will use Africa to grow food. Let the South African eat and they are better boss. Let the Zimbabwe eat and they are better boss. Then we will understand you real. But you are fake. You have no guilt. Let's continue here. You can read it, folks. I'm just reading some headline there now. Now, they say neutral Africa, the EU African biodiversity strategy. Let's see it again. Everything is about Europe, okay? Now, the EDG biodiversity strategy has at its core a net gain commitment to give back to nature more than is taken away. This is another lies. What have the colonizer, what have America taken from you? Africa, and they gave more back to Africa. What have Europe, the colonizer, taken from Africa and they gave more back to Africa? And they were giving more back to Africa. Couldn't have Africa been developed today? Another lies. Another BS. Okay? Let's continue down. You can read it, but I'm just reading headline. I want to reach to a place quick that I want to reach to. Now, they say energy, shifting demand from fossil fuel to cleaner source, right? Now, let's read a little bit here and then I'll go down. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's long. They took time to put this together. Okay? I'm telling you, they took time to put this together. Now, a central aspect of the EGD is a fundamental change to Europe. Now you see it. They are not saying to the world, they are not saying to Africa, they are not saying to mankind, they are not saying between Africa and Europe. No. A central aspect, the main aspect of this whole climate change or this whole cook or this whole Africa new things, right? Is a fundamental change to Europe energy production and consumption in achieving critical objective. Now you understand? You see it? Why these people are lying to African people? You see why? There's whole COP27 they have in Egypt. I mean, in Egypt is a fraud. Now you see here. This is what they have under their wing. But they go to Africa and lie to us, right? But guess what? We will dig behind them and bring the story out. They said the main aspect of the EGT is a fundamental change to European energy production and consumption in achieving its critical objective. Okay? Now, these objectives include securing an affordable energy supply that meet the need of European, is the Africans, that meet the needs of European consumer and businesses right there. There is nothing here talking about African demand or African businesses or African consumer. It's to meet the need of European consumer and businesses. It's to meet the need of American consumer and businesses. Let's continue. Scaling up the production and uptake of clean energy from renewable sources to replace fossil fuel towards the goal of climate neutrality by 2050 is another objective. Now you see it. There's nothing about Africa benefiting from it. There's nothing about European or America working with Africa. First of all, listen to this. If this thing is about global thing here, they will not just be talking about European. They'll be talking about the world. We got 7 continents here, folks. Why they can't say it will benefit the 7 continents? Why they can't say it's about benefiting the 7 continents, the need of the 7 continents, and the need of the 7 continents of business people within the 7 continents? Let's continue here. Let's continue. Let's go follow down. I will skip. The informations are there. Take your time and read it. Take your time and read it. The informations are there. Okay? Take your time and read it. Now, let me read something here. Natural gas, however, remain a continual gray rate area. A recent court ruling in the Netherlands ordered the world top oil and gas trader, Royal Dutch Shell, to accelerate a transition plan by reducing greenhouse gas emission by 45% by 2030 from 2019 level. The French oil giant Total has struggled to secure financing from European leader for 2.9 billion euro, which is 3.5 billion United States dollar, for 8 East African crude oil pipeline, which is aimed at transporting oil from the region to international market via Tanzania, from Tanzania, right? Because of intense advocacy by environmental group. So you see what's going on here? Let's continue. So you see what's going on here, right? All these oil have been taken from the African continent. Have Africa benefit from it? No. But it has built the European nations. It has built America. All right? So they want to come out with new strategy again this time around when African people are waking up, taking their land, taking their resources, telling them, no, we want to be neutral. No, we want to build Africa for the African youth, for the African people. And then they come out with new strategy. How long these people will keep lying to us? We're not going to agree. We're not going to agree. You feel so we're stupid, Charlie? We pass this. Let's continue down. So, I mean, this was something they really put together. This research was intensive, okay? So they have graph in it, everything. How they will make Africa poor. How they will use Africa to get to the next stage. Folks, this is the scramble for Africa. So this whole climate change they're talking about, they're not talking about the 7 continents or the world. No, folks, let us get it. There are 7 continents. Why are they focusing only on Africa? Because they know the resources is in Africa. You think that thing is about climate change? It's not about climate change. It's about lying to African leaders and giving them money. And then put them in a closet and sit down. And then let them go and take the land. And then we're done. They scramble for Africa. That is why one Zambia president in 1952, he said, if we don't take care of our own independence, the colonizer will come as a recolonizer in the form of finance, in the form of investor, in the form of investment. You see the graph? They got everything planned out, folks. They got everything planned out. Let's continue down. I want you to see something, and we will get to it. Now, they say here, rising demand for critical raw material. Why you think these people are so mad and so angry? They are doing everything, and they are punishing African leaders that are still saying no to them. You see right here, rising demand for critical raw material, folks. Even though the EGD envision decoupling growth from the resource consumption, it is critical to have access to new raw material that are essential input in clean energy and technology such as solar, PV panel, wind turbines, battery storage, and EVs that require more minerals to build than their fossil fuel based counterpart. Now you see it, right? Now you see what's going on here. Let me read something here, and then I'll connect you. They said, even though the EGD envision, right, decoupling growth with resources consumption, it is critical to have access to new raw material. It is critical for America and Europe, for the colonizer, to have access to new raw material, right? It is critical. It is difficult. It is tough. It is hard. Why? Because African leaders, because African people are waking up, because African activists are waking up, are talking. Because Africans have come to realize that America and Europe, they are liars, they are deceiving people. African people have come to realize they are game. So it is difficult to get this new raw material for the direction in which Europe and America want to go to the next level. So what is said here? These raw material are crucial to realizing the energy strategy outlined in the EGD. Both the World Bank and the International Energy Agency project that growth in the use of low carbon technology will increase the demand for certain CRM. To meet the goal of the Paris Agreement by 2040, and they just had this Paris Agreement. African leaders went there again. African leaders went there, I think, what, last week? Yes, last week. African leaders were there. But you know what? These people, because they are enemies to Africa, before they meet African leaders, come on, man. Before these people meet African leaders, they already have their plan. They already have what they have in mind. They have already gone and sat down and already have their layout on what is to come in the future before they meet with African leaders. Okay? They already met with African leaders last week in France. Because they already have an agenda by 2040. This is how the colonizers are supposed to be. So they have already called African leaders. So if this thing was actually about climate change, we have 7 continents. Did they meet with all these leaders? They were just meeting with African leaders. Let's go ahead. By 2040, for example, mineral demand for use in EV and battery strategy will grow at least 30 times. So you see it? That is why they are calling African leaders, manipulating their mind, bribing them, putting fear in them. We just read this Bible, right? Put fear in them, make them to tremble so that they can't take the direction they are taking. Let them think that the God they serve, the God look like the white man. And when they see the white man standing before them, the white man giving them command, let them bow down, let them be lynched. Lynch them to succumb to your demand. Let's continue here. Let's go ahead. Let's go down, follow. So you see the graph, right? So you see the graph right here. So they got everything. This was not done by African people. This was done by the colonizer. Okay? Now, you see right here, you see the map here. What did they say here? African supplier or CRM to the EU, to the European Union. So you see right here. You see it, right? So everything here is about how they can use Africa to build their next war. So America too have her. Don't get it twisted. What you see here, America have the same model. Okay? Let's continue here. Let's go. Now, they said creating circular economy. I'm not even going to read that because they're not creating circular economy that African people would benefit from. Let's see right here. Deployment of new technology. Okay? I'm not going to read that. But again, it's just another fallacy. Okay? There have been the old technology that America and Europe have. Did they give it to Africa? They now give it to Africa before they come and get a new technology. Your old technology, you never share that with us. How are you going to share the new technology with us? Think about it. If I had the old one that I used to build myself up, and they'll call you third world country, if I had the old one that I used to build myself up, and they'll call you a shithole country, if I had the old one that I used to build myself up, and they'll call you an insignificant continent, John Bush said it, referring to African people. Daniel Trump said it, referring to African people as shithole. And other many leaders have said it, referring to African nation as third world. If I had the old one, I did not elevate you. That the new one I'm going to use to elevate you. And the reason for why I did not share the old one with you was because I did not want you to become independent. I did not want you to become self-sufficient. That's why I did not share the old one with you. So I'm going to share the new one with you. Think about that. Let's continue here. Now, they said financing European Green Deal. Let's see this. Let's read a little bit here. To achieve it by 2030 emission target, the European Commission estimate that annual investment of 260 billion Europe, which is 309 billion United States dollar, will be needed. Okay? In order to put Europe to where they want for Europe to be, they have to spend this money. And where most of this money will go? Let's see here what they say here. Someone else, okay, now let me read if I'll reach there. In total, the European Green Deal Investment Plan, also known as Sustainable European Investment Plan. Now you see here, there is nothing here that's saying Sustainable European, how they call it, Sustainable World Development, or Sustainable European Africa Development, or Sustainable Climate Development. Nothing. So you see what they have in Haiti, and then they come and meet African leaders and lie to them. But when they stand before African and they're speaking all those BS, what in their mind is different. What in their mind is this. They already have plan for you. They already have plan for Africa. So when they come to standing and reading bunch of nonsense to African people, it's lie. Because what they have already planned, this is it. So you see it. In total, the European, they're not saying in total the world, okay? Or in total Africa. The European Green Deal Investment Plan, also known as the Sustainable European Investment Plan, SEIP, aim to mobilize at least 1 trillion Europe, 1.1 trillion United States dollar in sustainable investment by 2030. These are the things they're going to develop. They're going to invest in Europe. They not say Africa. So how are they going to use this money? They're going to use this money by getting the African resources, the new resources. They're going to use this money when they get hold of the African land, when they get hold of our land, when they get hold of our resources in totality. Let's continue here. One of the way it aims to generate these investments is through the development of international carbon market and the revision of the EU emission trading system. The EU emission trading system. They already have trading system there. They are just going to upgrade it on how they can lie to African people, because African people are not coming to that side. Now, the reason why I focus on Africa, right? Like I said, we have 7 continents. Out of the 7 continents, the whole thing is focused on Africa, and that is why I keep mentioning Africa. Okay, let's continue here. That power here. Let's go down. Let's go down. So you see right here. Okay, so you see they have graph for everything. Rate of disbursement of climate finance from the EU as a percentage of commitment. You see it? They have everything. They have everything. So when they're meeting you African leaders, they already have an hidden agenda. They already finished planning what they want. So when they're meeting you, it's just to convince you, to just get you, okay, to just put it in your place as a horse Negro, to just put it in your place as a neo-colonialist, to just put it in your place as a real Negro. Okay? Okay. Let's continue here. So the graph are all there. So you African leaders, y'all pay attention. You know, people who have access to African leaders, they can share it with them. Let them see it and see. Now, let's see, finally, right? We get into the conclusion. And the conclusion is where you're going to see that these people, they are fake. Let's get to the conclusion. They say finally, right? The conclusion is long. But finally, EU climate financing disproportionately goes to middle income country rather than low income economy. Now, this may sound confusing, right? Let me break it down to you here. Finally, EU climate financing disproportionately, right, goes to middle income countries. Now, this middle income countries, right, they changed that here to put it economy. Now, I'm going to put this countries right here. I'm going to change this economy and put countries. Just how they put country here, I'm going to put country here. Then explain to you. So what they did here, they tried to use metaphor here to confuse you, not to get what they're trying to say here. But what they're trying to say here, let me read it there, explain it to you and break it down to you, okay? Now, they said EU climate financing disproportionately goes to middle income countries rather than low income countries. Now, you know what I say middle income country? You know why they focus on middle income country and they don't focus on low income countries? Is this. With the low income country, they have no dealing with you. They can get to you anytime. You have no power. With the low income countries, you have no power. With the middle income countries, they got some kind of a power, or they got some kind of a resistance that they can resist the West. They can resist Europe. They can resist America. But you poor, you can resist America. You can resist Europe. You poor. So what they do here, doing slavery, what did they do? What did they do? They didn't go to the scary slave or the obedient slave. They subdue the brave slave. They subdue the slave who resisted. And then when a weak slave see the brave slave being subdued, that also put fear in him more from becoming brave. Because they were lynched. They were butt break. They were raped. The rebellion slave. The slave who were not afraid in front of his wife, his children, rape him there, humiliate him. But in this modern time, what they're going to do here is they're going to give finances to countries that are stable already, that can resist, that can say, no, America, we can stay on our own. No, Great Britain, we can stay on our own. So when they get these people, you, the poor country, you have no choice to follow. Because they will use these same middle income country, these same powerful African nations to go against the poor nation. What are they doing in Africa? They did not use they did not use ECOWAS to put sanction on Mali. That's what they're talking about here. They use sanction. They use the ECOWAS to put sanction on Mali. They use another African nation to go against another African nation to put sanction on Mali. They use another African nation to put sanction on Guinea. They use another African nation when they put sanction on Zimbabwe. They are using African nation not to advocate for the sanction to be removed on Zimbabwe. They're using African nation, divide and conquer, not to say, you know what, we got to work together to take Zimbabwe from this calamity. That is what it's saying right here. Metaphor they use it here. But you see, as a revolutionary, when you read, when you study, when you understand the game, the language, the attitude of the colonizer, they don't have no guilt. When they speak, you understand. Let's continue. Now, I'll break it down for you. You get this. Let's go ahead. Let's go ahead. In 2018, only 14% of climate financing from EU institutions, including the emission, European Development Fund, and the EIB, went to least developed country, compared with 23% to upper middle income countries. So you see, so they learn from here. So what they say here is something that they learn from. Okay? So what they did, instead of them giving it to countries that were developed, they were giving it to countries that was least developed, right? But they have come to realize now, no, this time around, we have to use the colonial tactics. What we did colonial time, we have to do it this time. We got to bring countries that are in power to our side. And then those countries that are in power, when we bring it to our side, they will go against countries that are not in power, and that will be able to take control of the African continent. Let's continue. Now, policy recommendation. Okay? Let's see those policy recommendation. I'm just running over things because we're running beyond time. But take your time and read these things. Okay? When I read it myself, take your time and read it. Now, policy recommendation. The EGD present policy and vision for a transition to a green economy in Europe. Now you see what it's for. It's not about Africa. So this whole climate change is not about Africa. These people never had time for you yesterday. Will they have time for you today? These people have no remorse or how they treat you. Will they have time for you today? These people know that the condition you are in, they pour you in, and they never have remorse of taking you from there or even uplifting you. Will they have time for you today? Now you see how this whole climate policy change is fiasco. It's BS. I don't want to mention the word, but I'll just say BS. You know what I mean? It's all lies. So you see what they have in hailing, and then before going to the African leaders, before going to the African people, you see what they have in headings. The EGD present, policy present right now, policy and vision. They are policy and vision right now for transition, right? For America and Europe to transition so that they cannot lose their place in the world as superpower. So that they cannot lose their place in the world to come to be terror. So that they cannot lose their place in the world to control Africa and African resources. Right? That's what they're saying here. It's typically on Europe. Now they say, why it is needed an internal policy instrument. You see it? Why it is needed, like from the beginning, I told you that internal, it means foreign policy, right? Why it is mainly a foreign policy instrument. African leaders, wake up. This is an area I want you to pay attention to. So everything that they read from the beginning, that it will be this, it will be this, it will be this. Now you see here. The meeting you having with them about this whole climate change policy. You see what they have behind you here. This is complete satanic behavior. This is how Satan behave. This is how the snake behave. You see a snake moving a tongue, giving a tongue like this. It's not friendly. It's finding a way to get around you, to bite you, and to escape. So you see, why it is neither internal policy, why it is neither foreign policy instrument, it is significant potential global impact. Its significant potential global impact make it effectively a foreign policy. You see it now? Now you see? They make it clear here to you now. They make it clear to you. It is significant. It is significant potential global impact. Its significant potential global impact make it effectively a foreign policy strategic that affect African nation. I mean, put it there. I didn't put it there. I'm just reading it. Now you hear it clear for yourself. Make it effectively a foreign policy strategy that affects African countries. And this effect is not positive effect. It's negative effect. Let's continue here. The strong economic and historical tie with the African continent ensure that the recognition of European market for agriculture, fossil fuel, and other natural resources envisioned by the EGD will affect Africa. That's blunter lie. Let's continue here. This impact will occur through the channel of European financial muscle. Now you see here, European. Now, all these things will happen through European financial muscle. Because why? They are all a competitor. Like China is there, Russia is there. So how can they win African people over? It's by exercising their financial muscle. It's by exercising resources that they have exploited from us, right? Coming back again to us, giving some to us. You see, technology, through financial muscle, technology, and standard. Last standard until now, listen what they said is standard. Standard means the EU, which then include the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom provided 21.9 billion euro, 25.9 billion United States dollar in official development aid to Africa. Development aid to Africa. Let me ask this question to African people. Aren't we tired of being a beggar? This time around, let we be the one to call the United States and Europe beggars. Let we be the one to give the United States and Europe aid. And how can that happen? Let us say no to their policy. Let us say no to their money, to their bribe. Let us say no to their, how they call it, climate change policy. They cannot save Africa. They never saved Africa. They cannot save Africa now. Let us say no to them. If anybody is to save Africa, it's us. It's we African, we black people that can save Africa. It was we African that freed ourselves, that emancipated ourselves during slavery. It was not them. It was we African that emancipated, that free our African continent, okay? That free our African continent politically. Not them. And in fact, they even went ahead, they start killing those African leaders that free the African continent politically, and they start killing them because those African leaders also have a vision to free the African continent economically. If they can kill them, you think they are coming to give you economic freedom? If they want to give you economic freedom, why should them destroy their equipment in this 2022? Why should they destroy their equipment in Burkina Faso when the Burkinabés are natural, how they call it, or taking a land to make it state-owned, are taking our resources to make it state-owned? They are destroying it. If they want to build you economically, if they want to build your economic power, why would they destroy the equipment? If they are saying they want to come and give you new technology, the new technology, that car is a new technology. Why did they destroy that new technology? Why did they destroy the car? How can you say you want to come and give new technology equipment to Africa for Africa to grow her food, for Africa to manufacture her own resources so that you can benefit from? But yet then, when Africans say we are taking our mind, our land, our resources, then you come ahead and destroy the new technology that you say you want to give us. Folks, these people, they are liars. They can lie more than Satan himself. They are liars more than Satan himself. If we are to refer to anybody as Satan, I think you know who should we be referring to as Satan. If we are to refer to anybody as demon, I think you know who should we refer to as demon. If we are to refer to anybody as devil, I think you know who should we refer to as devil. And if we are to refer to anybody as angel, then you know as well. Let's continue here. Let's continue here. Let's continue here. There is something I want us to read. I don't know if I will find it. Now, let's say here, right? Reinforcing EU-Africa relation towards partnership and sustainability. First of all, let me make this clear as African leaders. This is not the first time we have heard America and EU or the West talking about fostering sustainable development relationship with Africa. Whereas Africa have never benefited from it, but they benefit from us. This is not the first time. Okay? Now, they say transition in vision in the EGD offer the premise of overhauling EU-Africa relations from the donor-recipient orientation to the past towards mutually benefit partnership if the right steps are taken now. If the right steps are taken now. Now, why did they say if the right steps are taken now? Because recently they have seen African people taking their neutrality. They are seeing African people saying no. They are seeing African people standing up to them. And they are saying that if they don't take swift steps to convince African people to lie, to come and lie to African people, for African people to go back to sleep, they will lose everything. So that's why they are saying, let you act now. To say, oh, we are partner. But African people, let me ask you. You are partner. They want to take you as world leader. But when you come to them, they put you in buses. And they ride their sophisticated cars that are armor protected with their CIA or FBI or their military guy in them. But they put you in bus like passengers. Let's continue here. Now, so how can they do it? They say these are the steps. These are the steps they came out with. Right? Let's say forging genuine partnership in searching raw material and energy supply from Africa and energy supply from Africa by building industrial capacity, localizing value chain. Now, they should partnership with Africa. They should love to African people. They should have good relations with African people. They should talk to African people nice. You know, when you talk to the slave, when you talk to the slave nice, oh, I'm not going to beat you again. I'm not going to lynch you. I'm not going to enslave you. I'm not going to dehumanize you. I'm not going to break you. I'm not going to rape you in front of your wife. I'm not going to lynch you and all of those things. And now I'm seeing you as one of us. You are one of all. We are all human, right? If you can do that, then we will get the African resources. And that is what they say here. Look here. Look here. Look here. Raw material and energy supply from Africa. If we can partnership with Africa, if we can tell African people, yes, we agree, you are genius. You are genius, right? If we can do anything that will not stop us from exploiting the African people, let's do it. Let's tell them they are genius because they want to hear that. Let's tell them they are genius. Let's tell them they are important. As long we are getting our energies, as long we are getting our supply, their raw material, and building our industry. Look here what it said. As long the raw material and energy supplies from Africa by building industry. You see it? Let's continue here. I leave that. You can read and understand. Okay? You can read and understand. Now they say position Africa countries to access their climate transition agenda. Now you see it? Transition African country. What does that mean? Convince African leaders. Convince African people. Position them. You have dominion over them. You have dominion over the African continent. You have dominion over African people. You have dominion over African leaders. Don't you know that they still see you as a master? Don't you know that? I read the scripture here, right? I read it. Position them. Don't you know that they still see you as your master? Don't you know that they still honor you in every way? Don't you know that the God they serve, they see the God as a white man, they see the God through you? Position them. Position them. You see it? Let's continue here. Let's continue. They said to tap into the opportunity presented by the EGD, to tap into it, to convince African people, to make them to know that we are your master, you are still a slave. Hey, slave, obey your master. Hey, slave, honor your master in every way. Okay? To tap into the opportunity presented by the EGD and to mitigate potential risks, African country must. What must mean? Must is a command. Must is a command. Must is a verb. A command. Go, you must go. You must do it. Must is a command that you have no choice. African country must gladly articulate and accept their own climate transition agenda. You see this now, right? Now, listen to this. All they thought we will not see something like this. Everything they have said, all the nice things, all the sweet things, they have said how they're going to work with this, they're going to do that, they're going to do that. But at the end of the day, you see what they say here? What they're trying to say here is, even though we're fighting for climate change, even though we want for the world to be emission free or what, greenhouse effect and all of those things, right? You see, these people, they are evil. At the end of the day, they are saying they do not care about Africa climate change. They do not care about Africa climate change. They don't care. They don't care how Africa will manage for climate change. All they care is about supplying Europe. Listen right here. What did they say here? Let me read it again. I don't know if I can get it. Let me read it again. If I can see it. Okay. See what I say here. Forging junior partnership in sourcing. Now, forging junior partnership, it means coming out with a strategy that will convince African people to think that this whole climate change talk we're doing it for mutual benefit. In order to do that, right, we have to come out with, we have to be genuine. We have to be smart. We have to be calculative. Because all we need is to get the raw material and energy supply from Africa and then build America industry, build Europe industry capacity. Now, they came here. Listen to this. They came here, right? They came here. They said, even though we said we want to work together for climate change, but listen what they said here now. They said to tap into the opportunity presented by the EGD and to mitigate potential risks. That potential risks, you know what I mean? That potential risk is, while we're doing this, we should make sure Africa should not get in power. Because if Africa get in power, and take hold of our resources, if Africa become the leader in the climate change, it will be risks to us. So in order to mitigate that potential risk for Africa becoming a leader to lead climate change, in order to stop it, we should not help Africa. We should not give direction to Africa on how to maintain climate change in Africa. We should not allow them to take the lead. So now you see, so they are giving command. They are giving command. They said now, in order to avoid that, the African continent or the African nation must clearly articulate. You see that? So they are not there to come and give solution to how Africa can work with them for climate change in the world. Thereby, while they are fighting for their agenda, Africans should fight for their agenda. So then, what is the importance of Europe, America coming to host climate change with Africa? If you are not bringing solution to us, you are only bringing your solution, and then you want for African people to bring their solution. Then why African people can't work among themselves? Why African leaders can't work on the African continent or work with African in the African diaspora who understand the revolution? If you're saying this, because this is clear, African countries must clearly articulate and assess their own climate transition agenda. You understand this? So everything they are saying, they don't care to help Africa. So if Africa is to maintain her climate change, they don't care whether African forests are destroyed. They don't care whether, in the beginning, what did they say? They want to protect what social ecology, agriculture, whatever, from wild animal or animals and preserve this, right? But what are they saying here? If Africa is to do it, Africa must be clear to articulate and assess their own climate transition agenda. Are they talking about working together here? African leaders, you understand the language of these people. Now, let's see here. They should individually and collectively outline their climate change priority, considering their source and endowment, development strategy, historical legacies, and geopolitical interests, while also presenting clear demand for the EU around specific aspects of the agenda of the EGD. Now you see it. I stop right here. It's long, but you can read it and see, you know, what is there. I stop here. So you see how clear it is. So you see how clear. You see what is there in there, right? I'll take it out. So you see what is clear in there, that there are meshes. Okay? You see there are meshes in there, how clear it is. After they have said they want to work with African people, they want to do this, they want to do that, but you see at the end, of the article, what is said, they make it clear. They are not there to work with African people, even though they are saying they want African resources, even though they are going on the African continent in Egypt and having their COP27. The agenda they have is clear. So they got this under their sleeve and they have it here, but they're roaming around convincing African people that they want to work together for climate change. But you see what is said over there. Now, if they want for African people to work independently, if they want for African people to bring their own agenda, why should they go to Africa or to African leaders and tell them we want to work together for climate change? Why should you have meeting? Why should you waste African people time? Africa, African leaders. Let me repost this again. Let me copy and post it. I'm gonna post it again. I'm reposting it. If you can copy it, and share it with people. Share it to other platforms. Let them talk about it. If you can reach to African leaders, let it reach to them. Let it reach to them that all the meeting you're having with Europe and America for climate change is BS. This is what they say. If they said this, then why not sit on the African continent and have your own meeting with your African leaders, and then call the African diaspora, the African diaspora to come and have the meeting on how to affect climate change for the benefit of African people. The people language in there is clear. They are not helping Africa when it comes to the climate change. They are not going to tell African people what to do to preserve your climate or to preserve your world. It's clear. I can't even explain that more. It's clear. But before we go, let's see a video from Dr. Arikina. So this is how Europe and America have planned to divide Africa. And you can see it in there clear. Okay, I'll just jump in, but if you read, you will see the graph, everything. You will see the plan that have been laid out, everything. How they plan to divide Africa, Europe, and America. Okay, you will see it. So let's see a video from Dr. Arikina here. We may not listen to all because it's long. It's long. So let's see here.
A story coming out of Africa, a negative story coming out of Africa, always look for the story behind the story. Look for the story behind the story. Most of us are now awoken. Most of us are very aware of the invisible hand. And let's not be fooled anymore. Let's not be fed lies. Let's not be thrown a shiny object and run after the shiny object. So for us to be able to anticipate the challenges, to be able to anticipate and expect the activities of the invisible hand, we need that knowledge. So as young people, before you are being influenced by these NGOs, who pay you to go toy toy. Toy toy is when you run up and down the streets. That's what we say down south. Before you pay to go toy toy and demonstrate in order to further their agenda, remember, you are being used as an instrument of your own self-destruction. So the only person who can protect you from being used to destroy not only yourself, but your country and your continent is you. And the only way we can protect you as your elders is through knowledge, to say, stop. You know that NGO that seems very nice? You know that missionary who seems very nice? Guess what? 9 times out of 10, they're not nice at all. They're here for another agenda. Have you ever wondered why is it that towards elections of most countries, so many NGOs come into the country? And soon after the elections, what do you know? Miraculously, they're funding Ratat because their job is done until the next election. And they never support the ruling party. So the opposition could win the elections today. Guess what? Tomorrow, they are no longer supporting the ruling party. They just go with whoever is opposition, because theirs is to infiltrate and theirs is to divide. So let's have this frank conversation with our children, because it is our children that are red meat for them. It is our children. I remember talking to one young man, I would mention what his name or his country, but he said he was called to some embassy, foreign embassy, I won't mention which embassy, but the question posed to him was, what can we do to help you help your people to defend their freedom? What can we do? He was a musician, you see, they knew he had a platform. What can we do to help you help your people to defend their freedom? And the guy said, well, I didn't think they needed, they didn't have their freedom. But that's how they bring you in. If he was foolish enough, he would have thought, oh, this European nation is calling me, I must be special. But no, this one ran to the president and told them, this is what they're trying to do to me. Too many of us are being wooed in with people who have a different agenda. The only way to protect ourselves is to inform our children about the games that are being played. Particularly, be on the lookout for those NGOs, for those missionaries who come in with their Bibles, the NGOs who come in with their stupid little gifts and donations of money that belongs to us. Be aware of them. They are also one of Africa's enemies. So watch out. For us, let's empower our children. Let's let them understand the invisible hand and the various forms and shapes that it comes in. Knowledge is power. If you look at some of the leadership at the AU, people who really cannot have the backbones to stand up and defend our turf. The African Union, as OAU, was created by our Pan-African fathers. So AU can be the voice for the entire continent. So AU can speak out to the wrongs that are being meted to the entire continent. But if we have leaders who have the same mindset as this 5-year-old boy, who then grew up to be a leader, wherein lies the problem? Does that leader even realize they're suffering from this disease? That is Africa's challenge today. Too many of our leaders are defeated before the game even begins. I've seen too many when they sit in front of someone who doesn't look like us, particularly white people, their knees buckle in. They're already afraid. Afraid of what? That is one of the biggest issues we have in Africa today. Fear. Fear of those who don't look like us. Why are we so afraid? It's unfounded fear. It was fear that was intentionally instilled into us. We were born into this fear, born into this idea that we are inferior, that we're not as smart as they are. How long is it going to take before we can wake up and realize that we were before they were? That we as the Africans, we told the world what it means to be human and what it means to be civilized. We had it all before they did. But do our leadership understand that? Does our leadership have the backbone to stand up and defend our turf and speak truth to power? That is what's needed at the African Union. And unfortunately, and I'm going to say it like it is, right now, we don't have that leadership. And until we do, Africa will continue to be divided because the Zimbabwe president cannot speak on continental issues. The Mali president cannot speak on continental issues. The Gambian president can only speak on Gambia. The African Union is the only organization that could speak authoritatively on all continental issues. And if we had a strong, powerful voice at the African Union, a lot of the nonsense going on right now would stop. Because at the AU, you can look at every country around the world and tell them like it is, and call for all the African leaders that we are no longer going to the AU, sorry, to the UN for the annual conferences because these meetings are not for us. I'm sorry, we're not wasting taxpayers' money. But until we have such a strong voice, until we have such an awoken individual leading us at the AU, we're always going to be chasing our tails. So it's all about leadership, and leadership that is awoken, and leadership that is fearless. Thank you. I wanted to make a comment pertaining to leadership and what we can do as Africans to change our circumstances. Just to echo what Ambassador Mahalet Hule has just said, knowledge is power. So if we are really going to clean up our Africa, we need to start by education from the primary education level, teaching our children our history. I'm sorry, I have to keep saying it, but they need to know the enemy. They need to understand Africa from the root. So now, I don't know if some of you have seen a video that's going around of a 5-year-old boy who was given 2 dolls, one black one and a white one. And he was asked which one was beautiful. He pointed at the white one. He was asked which one was ugly. He pointed at the black one. He was asked which one was nice. He pointed at the white one. He was asked which one was mean. He pointed at the black one. He was then asked which one looks more like you. Very reluctantly, he pointed at the black one. Now, the same young boy who thinks he's ugly, he thinks he's mean, is going to grow up to be the next CEO of a Fortune 500 company. He's going to grow up to be the next prime minister, president. He's going to grow up to be the next member of parliament or minister. Garbage in, garbage out. This young boy is defeated before the game even begins. Sadly, that is the truth about some of our leaders today. Broken record, I find that the best way to empower people is through knowledge. When I started making the videos, I had no idea what an impact the videos would have. It was my only way of saying, after speaking on many platforms, I felt like invariably every question that I would get was, but Ambassador, the African leaders are corrupt. That's after I would have told the people about the 500 billion coming out of.
Do you feel puzzled why trades often turn against you as soon as you buy a stock? It is not your
of Africa from France every year, and the 50 billion, according to the corruption watchdogs, they say all of Africa a year, about 50 billion goes out of Africa through corruption. So here you are, you got 2 thieves, one with a briefcase with 50 billion, and another one with a briefcase with 500 billion, a little bitty country. So I just told you of the 2 thieves. So I'm expecting outrage about the 50 billion, but also 10 times outrage about the 500 billion. To my surprise, there was nothing, no questions about the 500 billion. And so I sought out to do the videos. So every time I speak, the listeners have something to go back and listen to so they can begin to really hear me. But once they started listening to me and they started paying attention, they started saying, well, wait just a minute. This is not right. So really just simply exposing the people to the knowledge, to the facts, to the truth, I find is the best way to empower young people. I am so proud of the young Kenyan girl who during the France-Africa summit, she turned around and looked at President Macron and said, President Macron, I am going to talk to you in a way that my heads of states will not talk to you. and she proceeded to give it to him. That young lady was empowered with knowledge and facts. The beauty for us is we are coming from a point of righteousness. All we have to do is speak our truth. All we have to do is state the facts. Truth and facts are constant. They never change. Let's give them an overdose of our truth. Let's give them an overdose of facts. And by so doing, our children are very smart. They get it. They're going to get up and say, no, this ain't right. That's not fair. It has to stop. So let's empower everyone, particularly our youth, with knowledge and facts. Two constant issues that never change.
Well. That's it right there. Dr. Arikina has spoken, and she spoke well. I am not even going to say anything further before I come, give some, before I leave the track. All right. So she spoke well. And at the beginning, she said, these people, they are scam. She did not say scam, but I'm just trying to paraphrase it. They are scam. And she said, whenever they come to you with an agenda, you have to understand their agenda. You have to understand there is always hailing hand behind it. You have to understand that they are not truthful to themselves. What they are coming out with, there is something they have behind. And you saw what we read. And you have seen all the nonsense or climate change meeting they're having that they want to just have in Egypt, COP27 that they just had there. But you have seen what I read to you. You saw what they already wrote and what they already have about Africa, and in their plan that they are not going to come out with any plan for Africa. If Africa is to come out with any climate change, Africa should come out with their own agenda on how to control their climate change. And they said Africa must. That means they're not going to work with Africa. That means they're only coming to work with Africa because they want the African resources. Dr. Arikina already said it. When we see these white people coming to the African continent, we should be careful. When they come in with their Bible, we should be careful because it's this Bible that they use to make us inferior. It is this Bible that they use to make us less human beings. This Bible that they use, and they told us we were 3/5 of a lesser human being. This Bible that they use, and they told us we have lesser God. This Bible that they use, and they told us we don't have God. They are God. We are the real God. They use our story, and they change our story in this Bible, and they put us there, and they control us. And they use this Bible that when we see the white man, we tremble, we fear. Okay? They use this Bible. And that is why they could see one white man subduing 50 to 100 black men. That is what Malcolm X said. Who told you? How can one white man subdue 50 black men? Who told you that one white man can subdue 50 black men? That was Malcolm X's statement, his question. Who told you one white man can subdue 100 black men? Who told you this? This told us. And that is what Dr. Arikina said. We should be careful of missionary. Yeah, European missionary. That be specific. We should be careful of European missionary. And to be specific, they also have black bourgeoisie missionary. They also have imperialist missionary. Okay, so in totality, holistically speaking, we should be careful with missionary. Whether they come from Europe, because they may come from Europe, they may look like us, but they are carrying European agenda. We should be afraid of them, not afraid of them, but we should be skeptical of them. Okay, we should be aware of them. Okay, that is what Dr. Arikina was saying, and we should be skeptical or aware or European NGO, non-governmental organization. Okay, they are saying they are non-governmental, but their government send them. Okay, when they come, they say they are non-governmental. No, they are governmental organization because they are being sponsored by their government, because that non-governmental organization you're talking about that are coming to the African continent, they also have FBI or CIA working into those non-governmental organizations. Okay, and if you are FBI or CIA, you work for your government, you work for your country. We should be aware of them. Whenever these white folks come to us of any agenda, we should not take it. We should always know that there is hidden agenda behind it. We should know them by now. Okay, that is it. Share, like, subscribe. We are just building this channel. We left the old channel, so we are building this new WCC platform. So you cannot donate to YouTube because YouTube said we have to reach to certain subscriber or certain viewer, and then before people can go on to donate. So we want you to send your donation to our website. Go to wechargecolonelisten.org, or the link is also posted at the beginning. So what we're going to do for every how they call it live, I'm going to post the link. So you can go there and send in your donation, or you can also join our Patreon where you can send in your contribution as well. So you can still do that there, and we will still receive it, because YouTube here, we cannot get any donation because they are saying we are still building out this platform. So that cannot stop us from speaking. We are not a capitalist, okay? So you can go there and send in your donation on our how to call it platform. Other than that, I will see you tomorrow. Don't forget, read the article that have been posted on our website. Read them. But I will see you tomorrow, and then I will also see you next week Friday. Peace.